Pasco School Board of Directors. I will call this meeting to order as it is 6:30, but prior to this meeting, we conducted our study session, which was around levy planning, where we had our Trevor Carlson, our consultant from Piper Sandler, and Dr. Castilleja presenting us with 3 different levy scenarios. And if that interests you, I encourage you to look at that. If you were able to attend, to check that out on our school district YouTube channel. Our second item on the agenda is our flag salute, which will be led this evening by our student board representatives who were sworn in at our last board meeting.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, student board representatives. It is great to see you here again at your second board meeting. Ms. Richardson, may we have a roll call, please?
Amanda Brown.
Present.
Steve Sims.
Present.
Don Finney.
Present.
Steve Norberg.
Present.
Amy Phillips.
Present.
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 Thank you, Ms. Richardson. Our next agenda item is the approval of our minutes from our regular board meeting on July 22nd, 2025. I would entertain a motion.
Madam President, I move to approve the regular board meeting minutes of July 22nd, 2025.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve our board meeting minutes from July 22nd, 2025. Can we approve that motion with a voice vote by saying aye?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Next on the agenda, our agenda review. Superintendent Whitney.
Board President Brown, there are no additions or changes to the agenda, and staff is not requesting an executive session.
Thank you. Now we get to hear a special recognition and of one of our staff. So, Ms. Tensmeyer, if you would please let us know who we will be honoring this evening.
Good evening, Board President Brown, Superintendent Whitney, and members of the board. Tonight, we are proud to recognize Dr. Nayeli Aranda Hernandez, PSD Migrant Program Graduation Specialist, for being named the 2024-2025 Washington State Migrant Graduation Specialist of the Year by the Washington State Office of Superintendent of Public Instruction. And I forgot, I need to put this up. Each year, the Washington State Migrant Education Program honors individuals who demonstrate exceptional service and unwavering dedication to migrant students and families. Dr. Aranda Hernandez was selected because of her outstanding commitment, innovative practices, and tireless advocacy, empowering students to succeed academically and pursue their goals with confidence and support. Let us extend our heartfelt congratulations to Dr. Aranda Hernandez for this well-deserved honor. Her compassion, leadership, and steadfast commitment to our migrant students and families reflect the very best of Pasco School District. We are grateful for her continued work to uplift, inspire, and ensure that every student, regardless of background, has the opportunity to thrive. Nayeli, please come up and join. Oh, yes, you're right here. Come up and join us. And I'm going to have you hold this certificate in this plaque, which will be in the hallway. Over here, and then if board members want to come down, so we can get a picture. Woo, just a little bit this way, and student board up to on this side. Perfect. So Nayeli's plaque is going to go on the wall of distinction outside of the boardroom, which will be displayed just outside of here, and then she also received a certificate of recognition for her to keep. So thank you.
Nayeli, thank you so much for your service to our students, especially our migrant population. And what an honor to be recognized at the state level. And what an honor for the district to have you working for us. Thank you so much. The next item on the agenda is our audience comments, the Pasco School Board of Directors values comments from the community, staff, students, parents, and I want to remind you that you have a 2-minute limit on your audience comments. At 2 minutes, I will ask you to conclude your comments, and so we can go on to the next speaker. And then if you are online, I will, then Mr. Garrett will mute you at 2 minutes. And we will also have the opportunity for public comment after our reports, if you wish to comment on anything that is on the agenda this evening and would like to do that after you hear the report. With that, I will go to our first commenter.
Hello, good evening, Board President Brown, board members, student board members, Superintendent Whitney. My name is John Weisenfeld. I'm a teacher for physics at Orion High School. Now, I've never said that at a board meeting yet, so that's a little new. But I wanted to remind you that you have a ribbon cutting for Sageview on the 18th, and then on the 19th, if you're not had enough ribbon cuttings, please come to the other high school. And we have been there for 2 days, the staff, all 9 of us, getting ready for our freshman class, our first class. And it's exciting. Remember, this is a uniquely Pasco school, and this is something different, so come and see. I'm sporting my Orion garb with our colors are orange and blue, so you'll see me in those colors now. Still love Pasco High. We are Pasco. Thank you. That's right.
Superintendent Whitney, Board President Brown, members of the board, community, and staff. My name is Guy Smurthwaite. I'm a lifelong resident of Pasco, an active member of the community, a 25-year veteran teacher in the district, and the Pasco Association of Educators lead bargainer. The Pasco School District's financial management should not fall on the shoulders of the people who work closest with our students. Teachers and classified staff didn't create a multi-million-dollar shortfall. We didn't push expensive district-wide pet projects during budget deficit. Teachers and paras are funded under the prototypical schools model, yet there are around 30 administrators who are not, and those are district choices, not ours. Instead of being in classrooms where we belong, we have many teachers who have been displaced into substitute positions. Some are even assigned to the booth building where there are no students at all. As you consider hard decisions tonight and over the fiscal year, and as you contemplate inevitable tightening of the proverbial belt, look to those expensive pet projects and the people furthest from classrooms. Meanwhile, in just 2 weeks, this district will open 2 new high schools funded with taxpayer dollars from people like me, while asking us to extend a levy in February. If you want to pass that levy, show us that you can set priorities that put students first, keep educators in classrooms, and spend taxpayer money wisely, because trust, once lost, is hard to win back. Thank you.
Good evening, Board President Brown, Superintendent Whitney, other board members, and other folks who are here just like me tonight. My name is Amber Haynes, and I teach 2nd grade at Mark Twain Elementary, and I am an elected representative of elementary educators in the Pasco Association of Educators. I'm here this evening to speak about District Policy 1630, Evaluation of the Superintendent Annual Objectives, specifically regarding the goal around 100% of all 3rd graders reading on grade level in their language of instruction. I am here to ask you to remove the data requirements around IRLA and ENEAL data from Superintendent Whitney's evaluation. Per PA's current CBA and the assessment waiver, which is part of it, educators are not required to give the ERLA or ANEAL or enter data into school pays. On the assessment waiver, which has been signed annually, yearly since the assessment committee was convened, the last line before the signatures reads, "Tests not addressed on this calendar will be utilized at teacher discretion." The agreed upon test for elementary literacy and math has been and continues to be the STAR. ERLA and ANEAL, while part of the ARC curriculum overall, are not mentioned on this document, and staff are not required to give this one-on-one assessment. Teachers, of course, are free to make the choice or use their discretion per the waiver to give it. I have historically done that, but it is my choice. It is not fair to Superintendent Whitney to require data from the ERLA and ANEAL that educators are not required to provide. I request that this data be removed so that my members are not asked to violate their contractual right to use it at their discretion. Thank you, and I will email you this information as well as a copy of the assessment waiver for your purview.
Is there anyone else present in the boardroom who would like to offer public comment this evening? Mr. Garrett, do we have anyone online? Thank you. The next item on the agenda is our consent agenda, which this evening consists of personnel, warrants, approval of conditional certificates and permits, minimum basic education requirement compliance report. I would entertain a motion. I was just making sure it was that short this evening.
Yeah, I was looking too. Board President Brown, I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as presented. Ms. Richardson, may we have a roll call vote, please?
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy?
Aye.
Dr. Norberg?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Tibbetts?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes unanimously. We have two action items this evening, the first of which is our budget adoption and public hearing, and the second of which is our election of our legislative representative. So we will move forward with our budget adoption and public hearing. And I have this will be another option. Dr. Castilleja, would you like to open up the public hearing before would you like to provide a preamble to the public hearing before I officially open it?
Yes.
Okay.
Bear with me, gotta find the right one here. Nope, that's not it. There we are. Okay, good evening, Board President Brown and Board of Directors and Superintendent Whitney. I'm happy to be here today to present your 25-26 budget. So a little uneventful. It's all of the stuff that we talked about over the last few months, which is a good thing. So no major changes from last meeting. So the purpose of tonight is to hold a public hearing for the 25-26 budget and request action for Resolution 1060, establishing maximum expenditure limits in each of Pasco School District's 5 funds for the 25-26 school year. So a little bit of history on where we've come. I am going to take the time to go through these so we can take a walk down memory lane. On May 13th, we had a presentation that I co-presented with Superintendent Whitney, Navigating Pasco School District's Fiscal Reality. And that's where we outlined a strategy for how to navigate over the next year and into future years. May 27th, we had another presentation, and the big topic in that one was around enrollment projections and how those affect our revenues as we budget plan. June 24th, we had another presentation that highlighted the cross-departmental collaboration required to develop an efficient and realistic budget based on conservative enrollment projections and capturing the staff attrition as necessary and appropriate. And then in July 22nd, we had our
most recent presentation where we presented the revenues and expenditure projections for 25-26. So you've seen these numbers already. We did some fine tuning, and really, I can't recall anything that really has changed on here. So the 5 designated funds, as a reminder for everybody, the board sets the spending limits for 5 main funds. The general fund, that's the big one. Our capital project funds, that's what we use to build and construct structures. Our debt service fund is how we manage our bonds in particular. Our Associated Student Body Fund, which is our students' money that they govern. And the Transportation Vehicle Fund, which is used specifically for the yellow buses to from school services. So a little bit of an overview. So looking at all 5 of those funds, this is a whole lot of information encapsulated in one little slide. So under the general fund, you can see we'll should have a beginning fund balance around $16.5 million, with our revenues going in and our expenditures coming out. We project to end at $12.5 million. That is a decrease, and that is actually a result of a whole lot of work of efficiency changes, cuts and whatnot in the last school year. So while it is a decrease, it is a significantly improved situation. And you'll see what that looks like in the rest of the presentation. Capital projects, we will start with a fund balance of $27 million, and we're finishing up our big construction projects. We will be very active at Pasco High School, for example. There's some other areas. So while the high schools are done, we have more high schools and other schools to improve. So we should end at about $11.7 million there. In the debt service fund, we will begin the year with $10.9 million, and through our activities of collecting taxes and paying the payment on our bonds, we will end at 13.1. Our ASB fund, we begin at 1.1 million. We do have some capacity to bring revenue in and out, and so we should end a little bit better than we started at, nearly 1.3 million in the ASB fund. The transportation fund, which is primarily funded through the depreciation on our owned buses, we will start out at 3.9 million. We will buy some buses this year. We have some on order to replace the old buses, and when all is said and done, we should end at just below $2 million in that fund. The MSOC reporting requirements. So let me give you the simple explanation on what this means, because someone said, what is that all about? The state legislated that when we are provided funds for our MSOCs, which is our materials operating costs, that we should spend those funds on those purposes. So if we were to be in a situation where we were spending less than we were receiving, we must account for that money and explain how we're going to spend it instead. That is by far not the case. You can see that we comfortably will spend a little more in our MSOCs than we actually receive an apportionment for the state. So we have a budgeted amount about $30.7 million in expenditures to spend on general education and lab science for students. We will receive $26.5 million in apportionment. So we are going to make up the difference in other ways in the amount of 3.6. So the 4-year forecast assumptions, so these are the bits and pieces that are important to know on how we built this. Ongoing revenues cover ongoing expenses. So the idea is we balance the budget as such. This projection budget assumes a fairly flat enrollment projection, which is a change for us. In past years, we were in rapid growth mode and trying to keep up with that, but now we're staying about level, if not decreasing a tad bit. MSOCs are mostly flat, but we do account for an increase to match IPD. So we do expect to receive additional revenue for MSOCs, and we expect it to be spent at a higher rate as well. Staffing levels resized to align with enrollment. So while we have the prototypical school model, we are staffed well above that, and so we will be monitoring the enrollment and the need and trying to match the need of our students with our staffing, because we are built for that rapid growth over the last decade. State, federal, and special program funding levels remain relatively flat with some increases due to IPD and new legislation. I will say, kind of sidebar there, we are cautiously watching the federal dollars in particular. As you know, we kind of had that scare where we lost some this summer and then they came back. I have received many cautions from different sources to really be on edge about next year. So, but they are included in this budget and being used carefully. We used the OSPI revenue forecast model and corroborated with the district model. So we kind of had to put the two things together as far as how we project how much money we will receive. We were following the long-term facility management plan when building the capital fund budget, so that should be familiar, and anticipating an increase in the levy that expires on December 31, 2026. So what that means is if the levy if we were to not go out for a levy or one were not to pass, we would have to come back and adjust. So the 4-year forecast projection, we'll kind of go through each fund here. You can see that this starts in 25-26 and ends at 2029. If you can imagine that, 2029 is I never thought we would see that day. That's we're in the future now. This assumes 17,415 students is the number that we use to budget. We'd been talking 17,400, so we're up a little bit on that, but nothing too big. The beginning balance with our fund balance would be 16 and a half, and we would end in 25-26 at 12.5. Now, assuming 3% increases to revenues and expenditures from year to year, and that reduction in about $5 million in staffing in 26-27, and then further reducing $3 million in staffing in 27-28, and then one more time in 28-29, along with a flat enrollment. If all of those conditions hold steady, you will then see the fund balance go from 12.5 to 13.3 to 17.1, and we'll be back up to 24.1 million in 28-29, which kind of brings us back to levels where we were, just a couple short years ago, and much healthier situation at that point. However, we do have goals of increasing that as well to coincide with the state's desire for us to have more cash on hand than in the past. Here we go into capital projects. Again, we start at 27.1, end at 11.7 in 25-26. So going across this line here, you can see there will be some further action here, assuming that you will pass the bond that's in the capital projects plan. And so you should see another set of projects happen there. And by 2029, we will have that spent out and well on its way. The debt service fund, again, this is how, bonds are kind of like the school public version of a mortgage, so if you think of it like that. So that's how we finance our construction in our buildings. We'll start at 10.9, in 26 at 11.2, and you can see that changes over time as we service those debts. We'll have 12.4 in 26-27, 14 million in 27-28, and 15 million in 28-29. So the idea is you manage that, and it's sort of cash in, cash out. As the tax dollars come in connection to the bonds, they go back out to service those debts, pay them off. ASB fund, this is a pretty stable area in our financial situation, which is great for our kids. They will end 25-26 at 1.3 million, 1.4 in 26-27, 1.6 in 27-28, and 1.7 in 28-29. That's one fund where I really encourage our students to plan carefully, but they do need to spend that money. It's for the kids, and it's nice that it's used on the kids that raised it while they're here. So that's a nice thing to see, a nice cushion, and that it's getting spent. Transportation vehicle, again, I sort of mentioned this earlier, but as buses are purchased, we get a little bit of depreciation, and the older it gets, the bigger the depreciation check gets. And then you get the biggest check in its last depreciation payment, and then it falls off depreciation. That's the time where you get rid of that bus, and then you replace it with a brand-new safe bus. So we're going to be doing that this year. And doing that in a regular cycle, you'll see we end 25-26 with just under $2 million. In that account, 1.6 in 26-27, 1.9 in 27-28, and $2 million in 28-29. That's one of the areas where I feel pretty good about how we're funded. So that is everything in a nutshell. So I suggest that we open a public hearing on the board of the budget, and that will allow for further board discussion. And when you're ready, you can also hear from the community at that time, and it will allow you to have enough information to adopt the 25-26 budget through Resolution 1060.
Thank you, Dr. Castilleja, for that recap of our 25-26 school year budget. So I will now open the public hearing on a proposed budget for the 2025-2026 school year. This hearing is an opportunity for any person to appear in person as well as virtually and be heard either for or against the budget or any part thereof. For those community members wishing to comment on the budget during this public hearing remotely, they'll need to raise their digital hand to be heard. After raising your hand, Mr. Garrett will unmute them and allow them to speak. But as per usual, we will start with public commenters. If there are any present in the boardroom, and the same conditions apply as during public comment, you have a 2-minute time limit, which will be timed by Ms. Richardson. I've neglected to mention previously during public comment that the light blinks yellow at 1 minute, letting you know you have half of your time or 1 minute to wrap up your comments. With that being said, are there any comments from the public during our budget adoption hearing? If so, please approach the podium.
So, good evening. My name is Bear Turner, and I live in Pasco, Washington. I'm here to voice my concerns about the proposed budget for the upcoming and forecasted school years. My main concerns for the budget presented on July 22nd are it did not show the data used to extrapolate trends in student enrollment over time, nor the district's cost per pupil over time, and the budget knowingly continues paying for unfunded programs with contingency funds. Regarding student enrollment, the budget projects 17,400 students in the 25-26 school year, and it only accounts for a student decline of 198 students between 24-25 and 25-26 school years, whereas the student decline was 1,401 students, 7 times greater between the previous 2 school years. Next, the forecasted budget assumes student enrollments for the following 3 school years will be stable at 17,400 students. I believe these enrollment projections and budget forecasts are unsound, and the actual enrollment numbers for the 25-26 school year need to be communicated as soon as possible. Also of concern is the cost per student between the 23-24 school year and the 25-26 school year. The cost per student increased approximately 14% over a 2-year period, but the overall budget forecasts an annual increase of 3%. School expenses need to be proportional to and evaluated against student enrollment. Thus, history has proven the cost per student having increased at rates more than double that of the projected 3% annual increase. If enrollment is declining, expenses should also be declining. School contingency funds are usually intended for unplanned expenses such as facility repairs, safety needs, natural disasters, enrollment spikes, legal costs, IT failures, cybersecurity breaches, staffing costs due to unexpected absences, or bus breakdowns and accidents. The budget is knowingly creating a financial crisis as the situation is known. The district was verbally notified by the State Superintendent of Public Instruction that certain programs would not be funded. The federal funds are currently froze and likely no longer available. Thank you.
Gerber, I have many hats. I'm wondering where the $8 million in staffing is going to be coming from, how you arrive at that number. $8 million in staffing over 2 years.
Is there anyone else present in the boardroom who would like to comment in our public hearing for the 2025-2026 budget? Mr. Garrett, do we have anyone online? Having no comments online, I would, if we have anything to discuss as a board, we can discuss it, or I would entertain a motion concerning the budget.
Board President Brown, I move to approve resolution number 1060, which establishes maximum expenditure limits in each of the Pasco School District's 5 funds for the 2025-2026 school year.
I second it.
We have a motion and a second to approve Resolution 1060, which establishes maximum expenditure limits in each of the Pasco School District's 5 funds for the 2025-2026 school year. Ms. Richardson, may we have a roll call vote, please?
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy?
Aye.
Dr. Barber?
Yes.
Mrs. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Simmons?
Yes.
The 2025-2026 budget passes unanimously. Thank you. And with that, I will close this budget hearing. Thank you, Dr. Castilleja. Thank you, board members. And thank you to those in the public who commented. So as I stated previously, that wasn't our only action item this evening. We also have the election of our legislative representative, which was originally scheduled in one of our previous board meetings and was tabled until this evening when we could all be present. So the legislative representative typically has a 2-year term, which goes from July 1st to June 30th. So if this person who is elected, they will have that term, and which starts from this time that they are elected this evening. The position is currently held by our board member, Ms. Phillips. So at this time, I will entertain nominations for our legislative representative.
Board President Brown, I would like to make a motion that Director Norberg be nominated for the legislative rep for the Pasco School District Board.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second to nominate Board Director Steve Norberg as our legislative representative. Ms. Richardson, may we have a roll call vote, please? I'm sorry, Ms. Richardson, I apologize. Is there any board discussion? Okay, roll call vote, please, Ms. Richardson.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy?
Aye.
Dr. Barber?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Simmons?
Yes.
Thank you very much. And Director Norberg, you are our new legislative representative. And so that role is, again, a 2-year term. Are we in the middle of a 2-year term right now? Or this will be 2 years from?
June. 2 years from June.
2 years from June 30th. So this whole next year and then the year after. Okay. All right. That ends our action items this evening, and we have no extended study or discussion items this evening, so that takes us to the first of our reports, which is celebrating student achievement, student growth, and closing the gap for McLaughlin, Three Rivers, Franklin, and Markham for the State Board of Educator Awards. Assistant Superintendent Goebel.
Good evening, Board President Brown, members of the board, and Superintendent Whitney. What a great way to start the school year by celebrating accomplishments of students and staff at 4 of our schools at Pasco School District. The purpose of tonight is to recognize students and staff from Markham, Franklin Elementary, Three Rivers, and McLaughlin Middle School for being recognized by Washington State School Recognition Program for 23-24 school year. Edmund Markham, I think this is like the third time that I think I actually was in front of you recognizing Edmund Markham. We have some staff members here. I know Wendy's ill today, so she couldn't be here. Received an award for growth for low-income students. McLaughlin Middle School, growth for, I know Julia's here, growth for students in one or more racial or ethnic groups. Franklin STEM Elementary, we got both of the admin here, and closing the gap for targeted groups of students in Three Rivers Elementary. We have admin here also, and closing the gap for targeted. The first few slides going to be review of multiple presentations that I've done in front of you, kind of to give background information about how these schools are selected and what is a Washington school recognition program. So this program is actually in collaboration of the State Board of Education, OSPI, and Educational Opportunity Gap Oversight Accountability Committee. They collaborate every year to recognize schools for their accomplishments in various categories. And the three specific categories are closing gaps in growth and achievement, really utilizing the Washington School Improvement Framework, we call it WSIF. You can see, I'm not going to read all the data below that, but it's really around compilation of variety of data, not just one data point. So 3 areas that schools get recognized for is closing the gaps, and our school, one of the schools received that. It's really substantial improvements, and I'm going to show you the data to see what we mean by substantial. Improvements for school or student groups. Growth is all student groups are identified, those groups of students who are making largest 2-year gains. So it's not only just achievements, but also looking at those growth. And achievement is the highest achieving schools in ELA and math proficiency and high school graduation rate. And that's ELA and math in SBA testing. That's the Smarter Balance Assessment, which is a school assessment. But it also tracks things like school attendance, 9th grade on track, and dual credit compilation. So it's really comprehensive and complex data collection and how these schools are identified. And I'm not going to go through this, but this kind of gives you a little bit about, it's not just one data point. Look at, as you can see for closing gaps, there's multiple data underneath it. Growth is like a whole slew of them. When we're talking about growth, it's not just, it's ELA, math, but also growth as well as a graduation rate, extended graduation rate, and as you can see, achievement is the same. It's also, these data points are not just 1 year. As you can see for achievement, it's actually for 3-year average. So it's not just a one data point, but it's actually growth in multiple years. So these are pretty high accomplishments for our schools. So I'm going to start with Markham, which recognized for growth for low-income students. And this is what the WSIF, and I know I've shared this with you before, and I'm not going to get into all the complexity of the data, but basically the WSIF, each of the areas fall between 1 and 10. As you can see, 1 being the lowest, 10 being the highest. And you could see the composite scores. For an example, all students are 8.45. That's like, as you can see, that'll be about 85%. That's how you look at that as to where they fall. And the line that you see here, and this is an important line, that's called the threshold. What they do is that they do an average of all the schools and they identify a threshold. So this last year was 2.25. So anything below that threshold means that they're bottom 5% of the state. That's what that threshold means. And the faint line below that, the dotted line, is actually a threshold that is established for any schools who are identified as a Title I school. Majority of our schools are Title I. So anything below that line for Title I schools would be below 5%. And as you can see, Markham's scores are well above the threshold in most of the categories. Specifically, they're recognized for low income. That, if you do a comparison, that's a huge, a 7.6 in low income is really high. And as you can see, I'm going to specifically call out that other academic achievement that describes a low income, both growth in ELA and math were at 10 out of 10. So I'm going to say that again, 10 out of 10. So highest you can be in terms of growth. So congratulations to Markham staff. That's a huge accomplishment. You're not here, but we're going to talk. And I always ask the principals, how did you get here? So, and you're going to see some patterns through all these. Number one pattern is that we have been focusing as a district really around instruction, high expectation and high support, where core curriculum is utilized by all teachers, really rigorous teaching with support, targeted interventions. Those are some key themes that you're going to see, and also school-wide strategies for math. And I know you heard all these during State of the Schools review. It was almost like a rewind and push, and, the push play. The consistency in all the schools are pretty remarkable. The next school that I will recognize, Franklin STEM, and they actually received this award for closing the gaps for a targeted group, and I showed a little bit different slide because I actually wanted to show you the growth. So you will see actually the 3-year cycle. They were actually recognized for the growth in English language learners. And you could see the growth in 3 years. Last year, so 2 years ago, it was from 2.09 to 1.7. Last year was 4.9. So huge growth in that subgroup. So again, pointing out that their growth in ELA and math, ELA was 6%, and growth in math was 10. So for that subgroup of kids, English language, the English learners. How did they get here? This is words from our principals. Again, high expectations, high support, really focusing on the PLC and alignment of instruction and standards through the PLC process. They've really embraced Avid as school-wide. I know this is their second year, and impressive implementation of Avid K5, really focusing on K5 vertical articulation for student agency. So in order for students to really access high rigorous curriculum, they need agency like, when things are hard, you don't give up. And those kind of agency that they focused on, which is impressive. Also, they also implemented universal screening, really addressing the whole child through social, emotional behavior, academic needs. And I know they have phenomenal data around how they built really tier 1 support for all kids. So every student feels belong, and also they're emotionally well, so they can actually access the rigorous learning. So congratulations to Franklin. The next school that I want to recognize is Three Rivers Elementary School. They were also being recognized for closing gaps for a targeted group. And the English learners is also their targeted group that they showed a huge growth. As you can see, from last year, almost doubled in the growth in English learners. And their growth decile was 5 in ELA and math in 3. So again, a huge accomplishment for Three Rivers Elementary School. And some of the things that they focused on, I know that they've been really focused on their professional learning teams or professional learning communities, and really around clarity on instruction, best practices, and really progress of monitoring to really making adjustments to support to multilingual learners, not waiting until they're not successful, but really intervening early on. Really building out their tier 2 intervention systems, where teams of para-educators supported grade level PLTs with targeted interventions, focusing on progress monitoring, as well as really building wide focus on English language development standards for tier 1 instruction through dual language. Congratulations. The next school I want to recognize is McLaughlin Middle School, and they were being recognized for growth for students in one or more racial ethnic groups. And as you can see, most of the bars are above the threshold, and specifically, as you can see, they've made a huge growth in 2 or more racial groups, and their growth, the E and ELA was 10, again, 10 out of 10. And a growth in math was 2.0. So again, huge growth and as a formal middle school principal, middle school kids' growth like this is not common. So I just want to congratulate FORMAC, and I know I've seen them really intentionally focusing on academics, and these are some of the things that they have done. Really focus on belonging, really monthly celebrations during school lunch and school-wide lessons to build community and respect for differences, that being the foundation. Really also elevating student voice. I know they do. I know that I remember MAC staff sharing with you about
their ongoing surveys of our student voice and leadership opportunities, and actually making adjustments to their school plan based on student voice. Their school-wide MTSS framework is pretty phenomenal, from academic to social emotional behavior, and really grounded in evidence-based practices, and really narrowing on, again, that high expectations, high rigor with high support. And through that, growing the collective efficacy of teaming, where all adults are coming together to engage in this cycle of inquiry around student progress, and a really developing school-wide system. So congratulations to MAC. So that ends my presentation to celebrate 4 of our amazing schools and their staff. Are there any questions that I can entertain?
Could you explain what a decile is, or DECILE?
So it's, okay, see if I can explain. Decile is those different data that I shared with you. So attendance, ELA growth, and they put it in 1 to 10. Those are decile points. So 1 is like a 1%, 2 will be 20%, or I should say 10%, 2 will be 20%, 3 will be 30%. That's what they're calling decile points. Almost like when you get a GPA, you get 3.4. It's similar to that. It's a compilation of all those data points, and they put them into this 1 through 10, and then they develop this decile points. I don't know if that
As compared
it's really
to,
complicated.
Is it compared to that school, the 10% increase from for that school in that particular area?
It is a growth. If you look at the growth, so when you're looking at the growth from year to year growth for that school. But the way those decile points are identified, they're actually compared to all the schools in Washington State. So imagine they put all the schools based on the score, they line them up from the lowest to highest. So when you see a decile score of 9.6, that means that they landed on 96th percentile of 1 through 10. So it is comparing all the schools together. That's how they lined up. That's how I developed the threshold.
I noticed that in all of the slides for the 4 schools about how did they get here, they all incorporated a strong MTSS system with a strong Tier 1 with core instruction, and we're all working with collective teacher efficacy. I love how Edwin Markham has even incorporated specialists into their core curriculum. That's there's so many ways to incorporate among the specials with math and reading, and I really commend them for that, and just all the schools for being able to close these gaps, because there's a lot of schools that are being recognized as for their WASF data. You call it WSIF, I call it WASF, but there's a lot of schools that are wondering, what do we do? Outside of Pasco, and Pasco, I believe, is really an example to the rest of the districts in the state of what do we do when we need to close these gaps, when we need to address our test scores and attendance. And so thank you so much for all of you who came here tonight. And I just want to say that I really appreciate the work that you're putting in, because this is extra work to be putting in the school, more than just showing up every day and teaching. It's working with your colleagues, working across teams, working in principals, establishing frameworks and processes to be able to identify students and to really target instruction. And that is real work and requires dedication. So thank you so much for the work that you're doing to make Pasco schools great. I know that I appreciate it, and I'm sure my the fellow board members do as well. So we appreciate you being here tonight, and thank you, Assistant Superintendent Global, for sharing these amazing strides that our schools are making. The next item on our agenda, the next report, is our community engagement update for our PEAK program, our HOPE program, Ambassador program, and Parent Square. Ms. Tensmeyer.
Thank you. Okay, so good evening, Board President Brown, Superintendent Whitney, and members of the board. I'm Anna Tensmeyer, Director of Public Affairs, and tonight I'm happy to be here to share information about a few of our community engagement efforts at PSD. So at Pasco School District, we believe that strong schools are built on strong on strong community connections. For us, community engagement is more than just outreach. It's about building trust, fostering meaningful partnerships, and ensuring every voice is heard. Today's presentation will highlight 4 key areas of community engagement that are making a difference in Pasco. As you said, the Peak, Hope, and Ambassador programs and our Parent Square communication tool. So for the Peak program, it was established in 2008 to formally recognize businesses and community organizations that support Pasco School District. This is a unique homegrown program created right here in Pasco, and we're proud to say it's one of a kind. Each Peak partner contributes between $500 and $700 annually. We did change it last year, so it's $500 for elementary schools, $600 for middle schools, and $700 for high schools, just because there's more students to support their assigned school. Importantly, 100% of those contributions go directly to the school and are used to benefit students, whether through classroom supplies, family events, student celebrations, or enrichment opportunities. In addition to financial support, each partner also commits to participating in at least 3 activities throughout the school year, helping to build strong, lasting relationships between schools and community. And because of its success, the Peak program has drawn the attention of many other districts across the state. In fact, many districts now meet with us to learn about how they can develop similar partnerships in their own communities. Okay, so as of today, we're proud to have 40 business and community partners actively participating in the Peak program. These partners represent 76 partnership slots across 30 school buildings throughout the district. Many of our partners are committed, so committed that they support multiple schools, creating even broader impact across our community. We've recently expanded to include several additional sites, such as the Migrant Program, Early Learning Center, Pasco Digital Learning Academy, and most recently, Delta High School. At this time, we have 14 open partnership slots. So if you or someone you know is interested in getting involved and making a difference, we encourage you to reach out to Anna Mungia, who is our Community Connections Manager. We'd also like to officially welcome our newest Peak partners to Pasco School District, to our community. So please join me in welcoming QMON, which is a local tutoring business. Columbia Basin Oral and Maxillofacial Surgeons, Columbia Basin Health Association, Bechtel, and Web Auto. We're so grateful to these organizations for coming on board, and we look forward to the incredible impact that they'll have over the next few years. So why become a Peak partner? It's important to know that it's more than just a sponsorship, it's really a relationship. The support provided by Peak partners helps meet real needs in our schools and creates meaningful opportunities for students. In return, partners build lasting relationships with schools, staff, students, and families. And of course, Peak partners are recognized and celebrated through school district newsletters, events, websites, and other communications. It's a win for the school, a win for the partner, and most importantly, it's a win for our students. And we'd also like to take a moment to extend our thank you to Amazon for their generous sponsor of the Peak program. This year, they contributed $2,000 in support of our ongoing efforts, and specifically to help fund our annual Peak Partner Luncheon, which is actually tomorrow at Stevens Middle School. So these events are an important opportunity to celebrate and recognize our incredible businesses and give our schools and our businesses an opportunity to collaborate. So we just wanted to say thank you to Amazon. And the next program we're going to mention is the HOPE program, which stands for Helping Organizations Partner for Education. This is a district-wide initiative that connects local nonprofits and faith-based organizations with our schools and ways to support students and families beyond the classroom. This was a pre-existing program that was active and impactful in years past, but like many things during COVID, it took a pause, but now we're excited to bring it back, rebuilding those critical partnerships. So you may wonder what the main differences between HOPE and Peak are. So I listed some of those here. I won't read through them all, but the main differences being that HOPE is more in-kind donations, while Peak is more financial donations, and a contract for Peak as well. And HOPE is more flexible, so it's more supporting things by what we have going on at our different schools. So there's many meaningful ways to get involved with the HOPE program, whether you're an individual, nonprofit, or part of the community, an organization. So we group these opportunities into 3 main categories, which are meeting urgent needs, volunteer support, and program partnerships. And so why be a PEAK partner, a HOPE program partner? Not only it allows you to make a meaningful impact, it also comes with several benefits. As a HOPE partner, you'll be recognized on our community resources webpage, have the opportunity to attend quarterly events to stay connected and network with other organizations. We actually just hosted our first meeting last Thursday, and we had nearly 50 people come. We actually had to move locations from the Parent Ed Center to the boardroom because so many people RSVP'd and attended, which really blew us away and just shows the level of community commitment. So we were really excited about that. It's
Can
also
you say that again, Ms. Tensmeyer, what happened?
Oh, we had our first quarterly HOPE meeting on Thursday here in the boardroom. So we had almost 50 people attended.
From local faith organizations?
Yeah, and just community members and staff. Yeah. So if you want to get started, we do have a web page. The contact for that program is Gracie Baye-Shamal. She's our community outreach supervisor. We do ask that you complete a volunteer application if you're volunteering in the schools. We do have an interest form online, and then we also have a website here where we'll be posting quarterly calendars so people can see the different activities we have going on and where they want to support, and that will also have the dates for upcoming meetings on that website as well.
And Ms. Tensmeyer, is the HOPE program somewhat new?
So it was, we did have it in the past, but it kind of went quiet for a while during the pandemic, and we just kind of brought it back to life and revitalized it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wasn't this started by our student board reps back in like 2019?
That particular HOPE program was something specific to the school that they were hoping to implement. This is different than that.
Okay.
Good question, though. So next we have our ambassador program. So our ambassador program is a powerful way to connect families, staff, and community members more deeply with the work of our district. We're proud to share that we're now entering our 4th year of the program, which is crazy to think of. It feels like we just started it. The program is designed to provide a behind-the-scenes look at the day-to-day operations of our school district, foster accurate, informed communications within the community, and empower partnerships to serve as informed advocates for our schools. So the Ambassador Program is open to a wide range of participants who care about our schools, including our parents, community members, and staff and students. All participants just need to live in Pasco and have a strong interest in the success of our schools. And what to expect. So we run the program between November and May each year. In May, we actually do a graduation for our ambassadors during a board meeting. Each session is 90 minutes long and covers 2 key district topics, giving participants a broad and in-depth look at how the district operates. They receive printed resources, take part in guided tours, school tours. Every meeting is held at a different school or district building. And they have the chance to ask questions and engage directly with subject matter experts from each department. The program is designed to be informative, interactive, and community-focused, giving participants a firsthand understanding of the work happening across the district. So here's an example of what some of our topics that are covered throughout those sessions. As I said, session 7 is the actual graduation that takes place during a board meeting, so you can kind of get a feel of how that looks. And our upcoming dates for the next school year are on our website as well. We have an ambassador webpage on the psd1.org site, and these are the dates and locations for next year. And the application for next year for anyone who's interested will open on October 6th. And we will send a lot of communications out about when that application is open and will be opening through our typical channels of our website, social media platforms, and Parent Square and our newsletters. So if you are interested in applying, we say apply, but we take everyone. So encourage you to apply if you're interested. And finally, I'm going to talk about Parent Square. So Parent Square is the official communication platform that's used by our district. We implemented it last year, so we've had a full year, almost a full year in. It allows our school and district staff to send important messages to families and groups using channels that work best for them, including email, text, and mobile app notifications. And this ensures families stay informed, connected, and engaged no matter how they prefer to receive information. So it's more than just a communication tool, it's an all-in-one communication platform designed specifically for schools and families. And as you can see, it offers our staff and families many benefits. Some of the highlights I'd like to mention are it has a 2-way translation tool. So You set your preference and your language that you speak, and all your communications are sent to you and translated automatically into that language. The other nice part about teachers is they can direct message families, and the person would receive the message in their preferred language. They could write back, and it would come back to you in your preferred language. So you can talk to people in languages that maybe you don't speak, which is really nice for our teachers and our staff. And then you can see many of the other different things that we have up here too. And then there's also other features I'd like to mention. You can see this year our staff were very excited about the appointment signups or conferences. Most of our staff use these for conferences this year, and the direct messaging tool. And then also the forms, permission slips, and electronic signature feature. They've saved our district money by reducing the need for printed materials, minimizing paper waste, and streamlining administrative processes, both saving time and resources across schools. Most of our schools also sent out report cards this year. And that was really, really nice for families because the report cards are saved in the system and parents can go back and find them instead of having a mailed copy that maybe they don't ever receive. So it's nice to have the copies come through electronically. So we've seen major improvements in our ability to reach families since launching. We're now proud to report a 98% contactability rate, which is a significant increase from 75%, which we had on our previous system. That means nearly all families are now receiving important information from their schools and from the district. In addition to that increase, we've seen other key wins: higher parent engagement thanks to the two-way messaging, more accurate syncing with our student information system, PowerSchool, flexible notification options so families can choose real-time alerts, and faster communication during emergencies, which is critical for safety and awareness. So we truly think it's elevated how we connect with families, and really the results speak for themselves. So our goal for this year is training. We trained all of our administrators, secretaries, and district departments last year, but this year we'll be focusing on training, obviously, our new teams at Sageview and Orion, so we've completed that training with those teams. And then we're also offering teacher trainings this year, and we'll be offering those throughout the year. And our goal is really to ensure consistent, effective communication across all levels of the district so that all of our families can stay connected. And finally, we're committed to keeping families informed. To ensure awareness and support, we'll continue to promote Parent Square to our families, through our newsletter and website and social media and other communication tools. And our focus, like I said before, is just to make sure that all of our families understand how it works, know how to access it, and that they've validated their information so that they can access their school information. Because we believe that staying connected starts with our families being informed. So with that, that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
So President Brown, I just want to thank Anna and her team for their just innovative approach and their really key and dedicated commitment to communications. They do a phenomenal job. I'd put Anna and her team up against any team in the country. They do a fantastic job. I did want to highlight that one of the things that Anna and her team are doing are highlighting and amplifying Parent Squared as a communication tool, not only with our parents, but our community members. And so if there's community members that you know or that contact you or that are watching, there's a way for them to sign up inside Parent Squared to receive key communications through that mechanism. Otherwise, the communication is Facebook and our other Instagram, et cetera, and not all of our communications go on those mechanisms, and that's for very specific and intentional reasons. And so I would just really encourage any community member who's also interested in receiving all of Pasco School District's key communications is to sign up through Parent Squared, which I'm sure you have a process for.
Yep, on the psd1.org website, there's a Parent Square page, and there's a button that says Community Group. If you just click on that, there's a form you can complete, and then you'll receive all of our communications as a community member.
Thank you, Ms. Tinsmeyer. Does anyone have any comments or questions?
The comment I had just real quick was the congratulations on the 98% contactability rate. I think that's absolutely wonderful.
Thank you.
That's always a problem, right? Trying to get things out to parents, and that's amazing. 75% to 98. That's good to hear.
We're proud of that.
I love the HOPE program. That's really exciting. What a great way to get our community involved more in our schools. And in these tight economic times within the schools, that we can get some additional assistance from those that are willing to help with in-kind donations. I think it's a great program. I love the innovation that is shown through that, and there's just, this whole entire presentation was just win after win. So thank you for the hard work that's gone into this. I just love every one of these programs. So thank you so much for your hard work.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Tensmeyer. I think when I first got on the board, I was so impressed with our peak partners, and I've attended the luncheon. I think it was been a breakfast before, but it's just so great to see community showing up in our schools, contributing financially. And I have to second Director Phillips' comments about our HOPE program, because I find it very timely, especially as Dr. Castillejo was talking about the insecurity with federal funding in coming years, and that will affect our communities and schools who provide a lot of those services for our most needy students, above and beyond what we offer in schools, for having security, not just at school, but at home with items that they need, and nonprofits and our faith-based organizations. I just really appreciate their willingness to step in and help our needy groups of students. And I did check out the hyperlink to the ambassador program. It does take you to the website and says that when the application opens. I've been in the community a lot lately, and people have questions about or concerns about what's happening in schools, whether or not those are valid or concerns, but I think this is a great opportunity for people who are critical of public school to come and learn about what are the programs that we have, and what are we doing, not just in schools, but for the community. So it's really innovative, what we're doing with the ambassador program, bringing in our community stakeholders to learn more about the great things that we're doing here. And as a parent and a teacher, I've used Parent Square on both sides, and it does automatically translate those messages for me as a teacher, so I never know. There's a little message on the bottom that said this message was automatically translated into English, and so and I can click on it and I can read the original message in case it gets a little bit garbled, because sometimes the translation does it's AI that does it. So, but it's just a really great tool, and at Pasco High, I bragged so much on Pasco High over the last 4 years about my son, but now my youngest is a Chiawana student with the New Boundaries, so I get to hopefully brag on Chiawana about how they're doing so great communicating with parents. So I'm looking forward to continuing receiving those Parent Square messages on how my student is doing, and it's just such a great way to be able to communicate with our community partners, our stakeholders, in the language of their native language, because not everyone speaks English. So it's just such a great tool. So thank you for all your hard work. Thank you for always having our students' needs in mind and addressing them, and being proactive about that. Thank you.
Thank you.
The last report on our reports is our policy 1630, evaluation to superintendent, the approval of goals with our new superintendent evaluation that we just completed in this last couple months. We set goals for the superintendent as a board based on the results of the evaluation, and this report will be our official approval of those goals.
Board President Brown, members of the board, it is my pleasure to be in front of you this evening talking about this topic. I'm not as pleased about following Anna. I didn't think about that. That's a tough act to follow. So, as you described, Board President Brown, this process pre-existed the current superintendent evaluation model, however, is still required under the new superintendent evaluation model as part of policy 1630. So my purpose is to review that policy with you, provide the annual objectives that you identified in collaboration with our outside third-party consultant, Dr. Alsbury, at the study session on February 25th of 2025, and then allow for any discussion before the board, allow for discussion of the board. This will come back to you on the 26th of August with a request for approval. So you will not be approving them tonight. but you will have an opportunity to ask questions, clarifications in preparation for approving them on the 26th. So District Policy 1630 requires that the superintendent be evaluated on the basis of annual objectives and core district functions. It requires that the annual objectives be identified by the board before the beginning of the annual evaluation cycle or prior to the start of the school year. I would point out that Tuesday, August 26th, is the first day of school, so you'll be approving them on the first day of school, which in spirit, I believe, it adheres to the policy because you won't start evaluating me that night. Historically, the board has worked through the process of identifying those annual objectives in the summer or the spring in advance of my asking for approval of them in August. That happened this year. The annual objectives then frame the superintendent and district staff scope of work for the year, including but not limited to the board progress monitoring reports that are provided for you as a board, the state of the that is provided to you by myself and district staff, the state of the school reviews that are provided to you by principals and building level leadership teams, board reports and study sessions, and then, like you mentioned, Board President Brown, the superintendent evaluation. I am going to present the goals, and I just want to be really thoughtful and in acknowledging some feedback that we received tonight during public comment or audience comment about the data that is here as an example. I just want to clarify what you will approve on the first day of school is the actual target. The data is not, that part is not required to be approved by the board. We still have time to discuss whether or not these are the right data points, and I'd like some time to thoughtfully consider the comments that were made tonight before we dive too deep into those, but these are examples of data that have been utilized in the past or are recommended, and they really were a function of some concerns that were raised by board members in our last set of board progress monitoring reports. And so I just want to make sure that before we spend time, energy, and effort putting together those reports, that we're focused on the right data. So I just want to be really clear, the only thing that requires specific approval from the board are the actual targets. The data does not. So, any questions about that? Okay. So, under the goal of mastery of reading, which is part of our 100% goals, 100% of our students or third graders will read on their on grade level in their language of instruction. The targets that were identified by the board were around core instruction and a multi-tiered system of support, specifically acceleration and intervention. So the target for core instruction is to implement instruction aligned to the state learning standards using core curriculum, core materials focused on foundational skills in grades K2. And then the multi-tiered system of support, acceleration and intervention specifically calls out identifying needs early and accelerating learning through targeted intervention. Again, some of the data examples that we've used in the past or would potentially be recommended by staff are the K-5 early and anneal data for all students and also by cohort. We do collect STAR data K-8, and we could look at on-level and growth. Amy, this is for you. Comparison of students receiving preschool. We finally have a mechanism to report that data, and I thought you have been asking for it for like 10 years.
10 years, yes.
So on the eve of, your legacy, we're going to make it happen finally. So we're very excited to be able to provide that for you. In terms of data that we could use to identify or to monitor the intervention acceleration would be very similar, except including K-8 STAR data, specifically looking at student growth percentile at 64 or above, which is students that are making a year, more than a year's growth. So again, you're not specifically approving those, but wanting to get that on the board's radar screen for further discussion at a future meeting before we start board progress monitoring reports, so that staff is reporting to you as a board on district or data that's of interest to you. So for the algebra completion.
Superintendent Whitney.
I'm sorry.
Can you talk more about the growth percentile at 64 or above? So that's not at the 64th percentile overall. They're at 64th percentile for growth. Yes. So can you explain why that is on there?
So acceleration or intervention is specifically about students wanting to, us intervening and accelerating student learning. So there's a need to understand is, are students catching up? Are we closing the achievement gap? And the student growth percentile, that mechanism within the STAR tool allows us to monitor whether or not students that gap is closing.
So what is it?
What does a growth level of 64 mean?
Exactly.
More than a year's growth. So if you want to accelerate learning, you have to do more than a year. So if I'm a third grader and I'm at a second grade and I only do a year's amount of growth, I'm not going to close the gap. So you have to do more than a year's growth for kids that are significantly behind or they're not going to catch up. So the goal is specifically about acceleration and intervention. So we could just intervene and the student would stay behind. We have to accelerate their learning. So that student growth percentile will help us know if that's happening or not.
So 64 is an annual year's growth?
64 or above is more than a year's growth. Using the STAR tool, that particular module within the STAR tool, any student who has a student growth percentile that's 64 or above is making more than a year's progress as measured by the STAR assessment.
Thank you for that explanation.
Yeah, no problem. And I'm happy, like, I don't want to get too distracted by the data examples. We can have more reports about those before we're at a place to start doing the board progress monitoring reports. This really was just an opportunity to kind of get it out there, like a flavor of what they could be for your thought, so you could start thinking about it now. So the goal for algebra completion, 100% of our students will pass algebra by the end of 9th grade. Just by way of reminder, some of our students take algebra in 7th grade, some do it in 8th grade, but we want all of our students to pass by the end of 9th grade. Again, you chose targets 2 and 3, which again are about core instruction and acceleration and intervention. So core instruction, again, deliver state standards using materials and frameworks focused on vertical alignment. And then the intervention and acceleration is providing timely intervention to accelerate student learning. The data examples are very similar, if not exactly the same, only they would be using the mathematics component of those same, of STAR. Erlin and Neil is specific to the ELA curriculum, so on this particular goal, we would be looking at STAR data, again, the comparison of students receiving preschool, which again, we're super excited about, has been the ask of the board for a decade, and we're excited to be able to deliver on that. Any questions about that? And then finally, yes. So finally, the last goal, or the last targets fall under success in high school, which is 100% of our 9th graders will end the school year on track for graduation. And again, as a board, you chose targets 2 and 3, which are around core instruction and acceleration and intervention. The targets are very similar, engaging students in a foundational learning experience using the state learning standards and core materials and curriculum frameworks. And then intervention, create an early warning system and intervention to help students get on and stay on track. Again, we would be recommending using the STAR tool, both on level and growth, that comparison for preschool, number of credits earned per term through the end of 9th grade. And then one of the data sections that I'm really excited about, I think we're all excited about, Mark and his team did an on track for graduation correlation using local data. So statistically, and the research says, a student who is not on track by the end of 9th grade is 40 to 60% more likely to drop out of high school. Mark and his team analyzed that data, our local data, and that trend is not true in Pasco. Even if our kids are not on track, our kids, there's still a high percent of them that are graduating. Now, I'm certainly not recommending that mean we lower the standard or lower the 100, like our kids need to be on track, but I think it is a testament to our acceleration intervention programs working when students are off track in 9th grade, but still graduating in 4 years. Sometimes it takes them 5, but we're definitely beating what the research shows is typical when students are behind. So we're really excited about exploring that data set with you as a board. And it's a unique new way that we haven't looked at the data, so just compliments to Mark and his team. So with that, I'm happy to answer any other questions and just remind you that the targets will be on most likely the consent agenda unless otherwise directed by board officers. They typically show up on the consent agenda at that last meeting in August. Happy to entertain any other questions you may have.
For the targets, how long have those targets, like, they're actively being worked on right now?
No,
Do you
it's a
know?
great question.
I can't remember if you said it or not, but how long have you been working on these targets actively?
It's a great question. So this current strategic plan, I believe, well, a variation of the strategic plan was done in like 2017, 2018. But this is and then it was refreshed 5 years ago. So this is the last year of the 5-year strategic plan. So about 5 years ago, they were refreshed. I actually will be bringing to the board a recommendation about a refresh process given our current financial context and kind of the work scope of the district. But they've been this work has been in place for about 5 years. It's a great question. Thank you.
One other question. So just to clarify, so all the STAR tests, everything that's related with the what we're talking about with the success in high school and everything, with the tests that they took in preschool and everything in elementary, would that be transferred to high school to see their growth and to track if they're on the right track for all students?
It can. So we can look back and we can differentiate and look at data for students who received preschool and students that didn't. And we've already started looking at that data, and there's some very interesting data findings that we'll be presenting as part of this work.
Does that count as well for the WIDA test or the SBA? Would that be used for a target of growth?
Currently, that's not our recommendation, but it doesn't mean it can't be. That's a great question.
This is anyway, I think I'm a little confused by this. I know this is a brand new superintendent evaluation, and these targets, I know we outlined the areas of where, and voted on the areas where we wanted to see improvement. But right now, it feels like what we have are, the targets are just the areas that we wanted to see improvement. We don't have any goals for that improvement. And in a superintendent evaluation, I would love to see measurable goals for each of these areas of improvement. It does seem like we have one in, and by the way, I'm super excited about seeing the preschool comparison of kids and how that correlates, and if that affects kids being ready for kindergarten. But it seems like the only data point that really is a goal is that we get it at 64 or above, which I would even like to say I would love to see a goal of, let's get it at 70 or 75. I don't understand the numbers well enough to even give you a number, but I love having that growth data. But I feel like this is just the targets from where we voted on what needs improvement, but we're still lacking the goals. I don't know, can you help me understand how this is going to work?
So here's the limitation of the superintendent when you ask an outside third party to come in and implement their evaluation tool. I don't understand it any better than you do. So I was at the same training as you. So if you have clarification that you need about how this works, we need to call Thomas Alsbury and have him walk the board through how to execute this. And I'm happy to make that contact, but I don't know the answer to that question.
I 100% agree with you. I think that's a great step. I am not ready to.
I'm sorry, I wish I did.
No. And I appreciate that and the lack of understanding. In my personal opinion, I am not ready to approve this as a superintendent evaluation tool until we talk to Thomas Alsbury and he helps us understand how we make goals in these different areas so that they're very measurable and so they're very visible so that we know something that we can shoot for. I don't think this board has ever expected perfection, just progress. So I would love very visible, very, very distinct, very simple goals in these target areas that will help our mastery of reading. I would love to see it go beyond third grade. I would honestly love to see it go through K-8 as well. I realize that doesn't fit, and if it doesn't fit with until we with our outrageous outcomes because we don't have a reading goal. But that maybe we put the reading goal on track for graduation, because it's really important that our kids can read at a ninth grade level to be on track for graduation. I don't know, but it would be nice to, because I know that we as a board really want to see these goals being met in reading, and we want to see goals being met in mathematics, but I would love some clear goals.
So here's what I'll say about what I think I heard you just say. So there was a very specific and intentional process that Dr. Alsbury worked the whole board through in February. And by consensus, these targets were identified as the focus of the superintendent evaluation.
Correct.
If you want to change them, you'll need to change them by majority of the board, because the majority of the board chose these. Now, if your question's around how do we measure these, then I think that's a pretty technical application question that Dr. Thomas Alsbury can help us through. But if what you're saying is you want to change the targets and all of that, then by consensus of this board, you would need at least 3 of your board colleagues to want to also do that.
I don't want to
That's my
change the
opinion.
targets. I just want to figure out how we can do this by using our outrageous outcomes and make sure. And so maybe we can't add in through K-8 with the reading this year, or K-5 or whatever. That's fine. We don't have to do that. I do want clear goals. So I want to know how to make clear goals around these targets. That's my primary thing. But I don't want to, just because we don't have it in the outrageous outcomes, miss whole groups of students that we need goals around, and I would love to talk about that for the future.
So is Director Phillips, are you asking for numbers? Is that what you want?
I've always wanted numbers. I would absolutely love to see numbers, but right now, I don't even feel like we have clear goals, and I really don't want another goal of we're going to implement this program. I want a goal of, let's see our kids improve in this area 10% better. I would love to see that. Honestly, I want to see a number, something like we're going to get 60% of our kids passing mathematics at the basic level and science, and because I really think we can get our kids up to 50 or 60%. Right now we're in, I would guess, the 30% range, but some of our schools are in the 10% ranges. And I want to see clear numbers associated with that, because I think even as teachers, it gives them a goal to work toward it. I know when I have taught in the past, I love to give my kids goal sheets and hey, this is what you got on this test, and let's see what you can do to improve, and let's make a graph. I mean, I'm a math teacher, so this is where I am, but I've taught elementary school and high school, and it really helps kids to be involved in their learning, and I just feel like if we have more concrete goals, those will trickle down, and we can really make some real student achievement growth in this school district, which we need, and which has already been happening, especially in our ELA program. And I would love to celebrate those numbers very visibly. I mean, that's why we have four schools that have been recognized, because there's been such great growth in some of our schools. I want to duplicate that. I want to see 12 schools next year that are improved. And so I think it's possible on the improvement. Next year, the year after that, I want to see 18. I just think, I know we can do it. I know we can do it. I have faith in our kids, and I know it's possible, and I know those kinds of, solid goals will help the whole district.
So here's my question. If our outrageous outcome is that 100% of all third graders are going to read on grade level in their language of instruction, and then we make a goal that we want to see from 30 to 40% meeting that, then are we changing our outrageous outcome to okay, now we want to see 40% of kids succeeding when our outrageous outcome is at 100%?
No, I think we're setting a stepping stone. Right now, we're not there. So we're setting goals for making steps up to that 100%.
So an example would be you want to see 40% growth from where we are now? Was that what you're asking?
It doesn't necessarily have to be a number. I like it. I know Federal Way, Auburn, Tacoma School District, White River School District have all had, we're going to see 60% of our kids passing. I would be happy to see that. But I know that's kind of a hard thing to go, especially in this district that we haven't had goals like that. So even a growth goal of, we want the schools to average a 78 growth goal in both reading and mathematics. I would be fine with that as well. I just want a clear, visible goal that can be communicated to the schools and something we can all get behind and all work toward, because even parents would love to help. Hey, this is what has to happen. This is what we need. If we do this, we can get these kids' scores up. Our kids' scores in some situations are abysmal, and we have got to get these scores up. In some situations, there's a lot of growth, and we have just these incredible pockets of excellence. We need to replicate that. Our kids need to be achieving at higher levels than they are presently.
Student board reps, do you have any comments?
I agree with Director Phillips that we need to set a target goal. 100% is just not achievable. And not having any goal in here, such as this target that's listed here, we don't have any specific real goal. It's an area that we're going to look in, but we really don't have a goal. And I think that we need to set a higher standard or something that we want, a target to or goal to reach and be realistic, but we need continued progress. And somehow we've got to set a goal up there high enough that we can make progress and get us into levels that are higher than we currently are.
Board President Brown, I think if we're going to be amending this, I think we have to do it in consultation with Dr. Alsbury. And I don't even know logistically, if we have to approve this on the 26th, then either it will require a special meeting or a study session with Dr. Alsbury remotely or in person on the 26th. Because I think we need guidance to how best to address this, because when I see this, I see 100% goal. I don't know how else we can increase it beyond 100%. Now, maybe we have a like what some of my colleagues are saying is sort of like a stepping stone to 100%. But I don't feel comfortable with tinkering what's currently on the PowerPoint slide without Dr. Alsbury's guidance.
I just wanted to say, I feel like I understand what President Brown is saying. We're saying that we want 100% of third graders to be on track, but then we're setting. I also understand what Mrs. Phillips is saying, that I think the moral of the story is just making more specific goals that are more reachable for students to get towards. So instead of making very broad, I would say, goals, but make the goals specific and reachable.
Yeah, I agree with Board Rep Jessica. I think it is important to have something that is achievable. So if you've seen this growth in our students right now, we've had all these good achievements across our 4 schools that recognize, I think that it is important that, I think it was Director Phillips who was saying that we never have achieved perfection, we have achieved growth. I think that having that growth and celebrating that growth within our districts, the schools who have been seeing this growth in the students, we cannot just leave it at that, but moreover expand that growth to other schools as well, so we can see this 100% goal be achieved not just in those schools, but we can have that impact at a bigger magnitude. I think it's very important to have that in all of our schools.
I don't know what the next study session is. Do you know what our next study session is?
Long-term facilities management planning.
Okay. I don't know if we can switch that with something else. I don't know how we're going to do this, but I think we do need Dr. Alsbury back.
I will say that since you're already talking about after the evaluation having bringing up a new refresher with the new budget and everything else in mind, if we were to have a meeting with Dr. Alsbury, was it? Yeah, Dr. Alsbury there to help set up, because a lot of people want to know more about how these goals are being set up and the specifics behind it. I think with the refresher, if we kind of collaborated on that, so that next time for your next evaluation, we have all this that the current board is already wanting, throw all that in, and then we'll be able to kind of get a broader sense of what it's all saying while also being specific enough to meet the goals that people want.
And by the way, I agree with the other board members. However, this is with everything that's going on with the Levi budget, with the goals, is so much information for, I believe, for our students and all parents. Yes, I do believe, I agree with Ms. Phillips? Ms. Phillips? Yes, okay. Just to confirm. I agree with her. There should be a number to see how many students will grow their percentage, because this is a good reason, yes, but there's no clarity to it. How much percentage are we trying to reach? What is the goal? This is a plan. We just need the main purpose for this. Like, do you want our students to grow? Is it for the test? Is it for our high schools, our elementaries, everything? What is the main goal for this? But I like the plan. I like all the student boards are talking about. I like the student representatives' suggestions. I really like that. However, there should be a specific goal for that as well.
So I understand what Director Phillips is saying. I think she wants stepping stones or something that can indicate that this target is being met. My concern is these were the goals that we chose, and we did sit down with him multiple times and go through this. And I think I'm a little concerned that this is the time now we're having this discussion when we've had that opportunity in the past.
We have had the opportunity in class. I have asked for specific goals, and I don't think it was made clear by Dr. Alsbury what exactly the goals are. And I think it's an ideal time to hone this superintendent evaluation, so it is what this board wants.
I also, I just want to advocate for our student reps. This is like the first time we've seen it too. So, I mean, I know it's probably like we have little time to like fix it and like do stuff, but like, I just want people to acknowledge that the comments we made, it's not because it's like the first time we saw it. So, yeah.
Just to, Board President Brown, just to echo what Board Vice President Simmons is saying, is that there was a study session with Dr. Alsbury. The study session was recorded, so we have I think we have his comments on audio. So we worked with this with him, and I think to tinker with it without him would be a mistake. And I think I need to review the study session audio, but there was a process we went through with him to develop these targets and selections of these targets. So I'm very hesitant to tinker with any of this tonight without reviewing that audio and reviewing that process we all went through together to determine these targets. So I understand what Director Phillips is saying. I'm sure we discussed this during that study session, and I'm sure he had a response or explanation for these proposals. So I honestly don't know when we could work on this anymore. I think we're out of time. And we did work with him earlier this year, so this is the final product.
Thank you for your comments to the entire board and to the student board reps as well, especially. I think that this is a learning process. We have a new superintendent evaluation. This is our first time developing goals with that evaluation in place, and we have a plan that has been presented to us that we directed the staff to give us. It meets the criteria that we asked for, and I think we have some great pathway forward for next year to really narrow it down. But right now, put together a study session or a special board meeting would be in very strict time limits in order to meet board policy. my suggestion is that we take what we've learned from this year and apply it to next year. And Superintendent Whitney and staff are well aware that this wasn't quite what we had envisioned, but at this point, it's a little late to change it and to go back to the drawing board. My suggestion is that we move forward with these and then plan to do a study session in the next year with Dr. Alsbury to talk about how do we meet the stepping stone targets and how do we incorporate that into the superintendent evaluation so that we can see those data points.
I 100% disagree. I feel very strongly about this because I've been pushing this for so many years. These were targets. We did select these targets with the understanding that there would be goals made around these targets. I do not feel like we have goals around these targets. Now, we can go back, we can review it, but I think we can go back and say, listen, we're taking this into account, but we need goals around these targets. The targets were never meant to be goals. They're not goals for our superintendent evaluation. We chose the targets. Goals were supposed to be made around the targets. Those goals are not here. We do not have even clear goals that we can work through. This is completely unacceptable as a superintendent evaluation. I will not approve this, and I think this is an ideal time. I don't know, do we have a way of putting this off for a month, or can we call an emergency meeting? This is, and maybe we need to take what we've learned this year and remember that we need to do this ahead of time. But right now, we don't even have goals to approve.
Everyone's calling you the wrong name tonight. Director Phillips, I'm curious about what stepping stone goals, how that would change district staff's approach to meeting the goals. If we had, for instance, a goal that said 30% of students will meet the criteria, how would that change how the district would approach it if we had that?
Then we can clearly see when as data comes in, as presentations are made, hey, this is our goal. We've done this before in the past. This is our goal. This is where we came in relation to that goal. We fell short a little bit here. We exceeded it here, and you have a very measurable thing. The whole purpose of the superintendent evaluation, for me, in part, was that we have these clearly measurable goals. I don't even see the goal here. I mean, I can almost see more goals in the data than I can in the target. The target was the area that the goal was supposed to be completed in. I think it would be very valuable. We did this last year, and we did a working superintendent evaluation throughout the whole year. We're still in the process. I just don't see why we would possibly need to put this off for a whole nother year when we worked through this last year all along the way. We were very, very willing to work and move through this. Now we're here, and now we need to have some very clear goals, and I think we need to just continue to work with this as a moving document like we did last year and until we get it right. And then next year we'll be a lot closer to getting it right than rather than, oh, let's put it off and do nothing until next year.
Superintendent Whitney, if we postpone beyond the 26th of this month, are we in violation of district policy?
And my contract, yes.
In your contract?
Yep. So let me offer a potential path forward. So again, you went through a very specific and intentional process with Thomas Alsbury identifying the targets by consensus of the board. Though the targets in and of themselves meet the requirement of policy 1630, by approving those on the 26th does not preclude us from continuing the conversation around data and goals as it's required under the board progress monitoring reports. The board progress monitoring reports is the information I give you to monitor these targets. So by approving the targets at on the 26th, you will be in compliance with your policy, in compliance with my contract. We have Dr. Alsbury then work with us on how do we populate the board progress monitoring reports up against Director Phillips' request, if that request is appropriate in this model. So to me, I think you can approve the targets. It doesn't preclude you from continuing to have conversation around the data as it applies to the board progress monitoring reports.
And colleagues, we must respect and honor the contract of the superintendent. We must not be in violation of it. So that requires that we stick to the timeline as presented.
And I say we have a study session. I also think that it's legitimate to go back and say, can you make some goals around these targets for us to approve and put into action for the next thing? Talk to Dr. Alsbury personally. You don't want to do that.
I am not going to talk to Dr. Alsbury about my evaluation. That would be inappropriate. So someone from the board needs to interface with Dr. Alsbury about how I'm being evaluated. That's what's awkward about this.
So
I can't provide leadership around my own evaluation without, I think that's a strange position to put the superintendent in. So I'm happy to partner with board officers, get board officers on a call with Dr. Alsbury, and suss out a plan forward that keeps us in compliance with our policies and moving my evaluation forward in a recognizable timeline. It is not a recognizable evaluation timeline for any employee to change their evaluation cycle like in January. Like, we need to get Dr. Alsbury on a call, get this squared away this fall so that there's clarity for the board and for me in how my evaluation will be completed this year.
I agree. Do board officers have time to make an appointment with Dr. Alsbury and ask him about how we would associate goals to the targets that we chose?
So that would be like an addendum to what we'll be passing on the 26th, these goals?
No, you would pass on the 26th the targets. Because again, these were made by consensus of the board. At that time, the majority of you agreed on these 6 targets.
Yeah.
The targets then become the annual objectives. How we measure those and what that measurement looks like belongs in the board progress monitoring reports. That's governed by a whole nother set of policies that currently don't outline what Director Phillips is asking for either. So there's nothing in the current policies that you as a board approved around my evaluation that speaks to what Amy's saying. So if that changes, you could change it in the board progress monitoring policies.
But per your contract, whatever, quote, goals we come up with later on the fall or whenever with Alsbury, per your contract, these targets are what you're evaluated with. Okay.
Yeah.
But that's proven by the board progress and monitoring reports that we.
Correct.
So that's going to have the data.
Correct.
Because you're going to have to prove that you're meeting these targets.
Correct.
Which are aligned with the goal that's sitting on
The
that.
target we're already meeting. We already are delivering state learning standards using material and frameworks focused on vertical alignment. I feel like we're already doing that. We're already doing all these targets. We want to increase student achievement. That is the ultimate goal. That's why we chose these areas, so that we could make some very meaningful increases in each of these areas. These targets were areas that we wanted to see that increase in student achievement. And right now, I would argue we could do exactly what we're doing and not improve at all this year and still meet target. And I just don't. I'm frustrated with this, as you can tell.
But data is year over year, right?
Yeah.
So we see the growth or non-growth year over year
right.
already.
That's what I'm trying to get
But
at.
there's no teeth to say that you've got to meet this or you're deficient.
Well, if I didn't see growth based on the board progress reports for year over year, they're going to have.
But how much growth? It's not measurable.
Well, we have a goal, 100%.
It's not measurable.
100% is a goal that we are never going to meet.
So
it's an aspirational goal.
It's an aspirational goal. We need a very meaningful, reachable goal.
To me, he's our consultant. He hasn't provided what we've asked for. He needs to be contacted again, brought back in, whether it be on a Zoom call or whatever, and his assistants to bring us into how we can come into some measurable goals.
Well, how much is that going to cost?
You know what, even if we do this and go through this, at least we can evolve through this and get this down for next year, but it can't be just put off until next June and let's figure it out again.
This last year, the superintendent evaluation was a process that we went through in training, and there's definitely some room where we can learn some more about this, but right now, with a 2-week window, and in order to be in alignment with Superintendent Whitney's contract, we can definitely get on the phone with them, but in order to make completely new goals, and to me, the 100% goals have always been our goals. And if we wanted to change that, and it needed to be changed during when we set these goals that we have, I guess I don't understand the confusion around our target that we're already doing multi-systems support, and that is to attain the goal of 100%. And if you don't think that that goal is attainable, then that shouldn't have been the goal that we set as a board.
We didn't have any options. All we had were the options of various targets. And I thought we made it clear as a board that we wanted goals made around these targets. That's what I understood for this to be. And I feel like we made that clear last year through things when it's like, hey, we need these various things. And we talked about having measurable goals, and I thought that was understood, which is fine. I think we need to talk about it. I think we need to work through it. And I think that we do have a moving path forward. But I'm not ready to, I will not approve these in 2 weeks unless I see, I want to figure out, this feels like a failure to me. And I want to figure out how we can go about correcting this, having measurable goals, how we can work this into next year. So, I mean, I would love to talk to Dr. Alsbury. If somebody can't be there, I would love to. I want to see how we can do this without just having this lofty pie in the sky, we're never going to reach this goal, when what we really need is measurable goals in order to get to that 100%. And it is possible to get to 100% with various different ways of measuring things, but we're not there yet, and we have to get to those first, those basic goals first.
I want to be clear that I'm willing to have the conversation. I'm just not willing to change the goals this late in the game. I'm willing to do what the board has consensus on around making whether your wording is more achievable or a stepping stone goal, but at this point, what dictates what we do in this moment is board policy and a superintendent contract.
Yeah, I wish I could remember that conversation also we had during the study session, because I'm sure we talked about what Director Phillips brought up, and I'm sure there's a reason why we don't see that here. I'm sure there's a reason. I'm sure there's an explanation Dr. Alsbury provided us in that recording to explain where we're at right now. I mean, this is not the targets and the what we see before us. There's a process we went through to achieve that. I don't think this is just random. And I wonder if we have Alsbury again, he's going to provide us with the same explanations before, and we'll end up where we are right now. Otherwise, we'd have exactly what Director Phillips is mentioning on these slides.
So, I simply don't see a way forward except for what I suggested before, that we work on this knowing that we want to have more measurable goals over the next year that doesn't put us in violation of our policy and of your contract. I am more than willing to figure out a time that board officers can sit down and have a conversation with Dr. Alsbury around our concerns. And Superintendent Whitney, can we please schedule something with Dr. Alsbury?
I serve at the pleasure of the board.
I just think it would be appropriate for Amy to be a part of that, because she's one of those that,
We can't have 3 people, so.
or somebody that at least knows what we're trying to accomplish.
I think
I'm very aware of what we're trying to accomplish.
Our board officers
I don't think it's
are-
unclear what Amy's trying to.
are capable of having a conversation representing the
I
three
don't
of
think
us.
I'm the only one who is trying to accomplish this either. So I think there's enough information that we can move forward and do this.
Yeah, I just want to say, Amy, I don't think, Board Director Phillips, I don't think anyone's disagreeing with you on that. I just want to reiterate that. I think what she's asking is yes, it's a good idea. We would all want to see that.
I just want to be clear, I don't disagree either. And had I been clearly asked for it in February, I would have delivered it tonight. So clearly, things are not clear. I would also recommend that from now on, whenever there's a superintendent evaluation topic on the agenda, that Dr. Alsbury is at least on a Zoom, because I am not in a position to help lead through this, because one, it's my evaluation, I don't know, it's not my model. So I would like to offer that as board's consideration as well.
I think that's a great suggestion. I think that's something we should do.
But colleagues, regardless of how that conversation with Dr. Alsbury go, we need to approve this on the 26th to stay in compliance with the contract of the superintendent.
I think if we talk to Dr. Alsbury and possibly have maybe make a study session around it, or at least have a board report around it, perhaps with Dr. Alsbury here via Zoom or in person, that all of that can be accomplished and we can still approve something that will work. I really think I think it's possible.
I would agree.
We have next steps planned for the evaluation of the superintendent and approval of the goals. And with that, I will open up public comments about our agenda items this evening. This evening, we had action items around, we approved our yearly budget and had a hearing. We elected our new legislative representative, and we had our reports around student achievements, our community engagement update, and policy 1630, evaluation of superintendent. Is there anyone present in the boardroom who would like to offer public comment to the board? The same conditions apply. 2 minutes, Mr. Turner.
I'm just going to say that was painful watching you guys discuss something that none of you could explain. And that it came to the 11th hour and none of you can explain what the superintendent evaluation is, other than you have a speculative track that cannot be defined, is shocking. What I have in front of me as a parent is what I'm concerned about is, I don't have my glasses, so the English language art standards, this is from the 25 or 24, 25 school district reports, is only 32.2%. The math standard is 21.7%. The science standard is 30.7%. As a parent, I want to understand what's being evaluated. I want to understand what the measures are, and none of you can do that. And I looked up there at the screen going, what are you guys talking about? So you have hired a consultant to guide you in this process, and he's been doing it for months, and none of you can understand or communicate it. Like, what are you doing? Like, I would terminate his contract, and I would never use him again. That's it.
Don Wright, Chiawana High School, PA Executive Board. I just have a question, really. You have a goal about third graders being reading in their language of instruction, and so like in the dual language program, if the language of instruction is Spanish, the native English speakers would be reading at a third grade level in Spanish, is that correct? Okay, and the native Spanish speakers would be reading at a third grade level in Spanish. Is there a goal for the native Spanish speakers to be reading at a third grade level in English? And in fact, are the native Spanish speakers learning English at the same pace that the English speakers are learning Spanish? Just curious.
Is there anyone else who would like to offer public comment who's present in the boardroom?
Amber Haynes, Twain, second grade Pasco Association of Educators, elected representative at large. And I just really want to echo what Board President Brown said. What are the teeth? What is the necessity of the teeth? And I can tell you, as a 9-year veteran going into my 10th year, my goal is every day that 100% of my students are learning and growing to be on grade level, to meet grade level standards. If, as someone once said to me, I expect 30% growth, who are the other kids in my class I'm not expecting to grow? That's not an okay thing for me to say to my students with disabilities, 504 plans, IEPs, my students who are low income, multilingual learners. It does not change anything for me as a daily practitioner working with students, because I show up every day, as do every colleague I personally know, to teach our students at high levels of excellence. That's not to say we can't get better or there aren't strategies and things that are happening across the district that could improve teaching and learning. But to suggest that we're not doing that and to use data in a way that is punitive, I would never do that to my students. When we take the star, we celebrate growth, period. And if you don't make growth, we're trying for that next time. And that's not on the back of Superintendent Whitney, and we're already going in with the better outcome of wanting all of our kids to be on grade level. It's not acceptable when students aren't, and we're working for all of them to get there. And it doesn't change my daily practice, period, because that wouldn't make me the educator who has high expectations of my students.
Mr. Garrett, do we have anyone online who would like to offer public comment about our board reports this evening? Thank you. With that, we will go to communications. Dr. Norberg, will you please start us off?
So today, this week when I was going through the board packet, and I started looking at the minimum basic education requirement compliance report, and looking and reading through that, it is a huge bureaucracy. They're really taking the control of the school at the state level. And I just think that it behooves us all to spend some time looking through that and seeing what each little item that we've got to meet state compliance. And I'm just saying, I was amazed. I'm still learning as a school board member. I was amazed at all the things that were in there. And it just truly represents a bureaucracy.
I'll pass.
I'll pass too.
Yeah, I'm gonna pass on this one as well.
I wanted to speak on one of the programs that Pasco School District has been working towards and working with for this past month. Pasco School District has recently partnered with Ignite to Unite to partner with our 3 comprehensive high schools across our district. And I was a part of that Ignite to Unite group of students who represented the 4 A's across the athletics, arts, academics, and activities. And it truly sparked growth across all 3 schools. I have never seen in my almost 4 years of high school, all 3 schools just come together as one team. And that's something we've been striving for this past school year. Is going to be one team and one dream, and that's something we truly have been seeing. I think that the district has truly invested in something that's going to promote so much growth and so much I guess compassion with our students, with each other, because all of us are striving towards growing more spirit and more cultivating that connection with our sister schools. So I think it's really great for the district to continue partnering with something like this that has sparked so much growth and has ignited something very special within our students.
Similar to Noe, I also got to attend like the first day of the event. I couldn't attend the second one because of something else. But even in that like first event, I could see how like from the start of the event to like the end of the event, or till I left, how just spirited kids actually are, and like I feel like bringing Ignite to our schools and to our kids and to our leaders was a good way to start conversation about how we're gonna improve school climate, school culture, and I'm really positive that in like the next year that I'm gonna be in Pasco High and just like all over the district, I'm really positive that we are gonna see the changes that are gonna come from like bringing programs like these to our school to cultivate culture. And I also hope that in the years to come, we see a really big growth. Thank you.
I was the same. I was the same event with Noel and Jessica. I agree with what Jessica said. For me, when we were at that event, I saw a lot of people, a lot of students interacting. That everybody came out of their shells. Everybody was participating. Everybody was smiling. Nobody was embarrassed of nothing. Everybody was themselves. I want to see all schools to grow, to have a strong community, to instead of being rivals and hating each other's schools, like to support each other and to get that growth that we want, that school climate, that school change that we want, that spiritual that we want from the school, to get that school spirit. I'm sorry. Apologies if I stutter or say anything wrong in English. It's not my first language. I'm still learning English, so apologies for that. So yes, I'm excited for this school year, and especially that school's coming up. And yes, thank you.
Just real briefly, just once again want to say congratulations to those schools, McLaughlin, Three Rivers, Franklin, Markham, that were very successful in closing the achievement gaps. I think that needs to be recognized, the hard work and efforts again that were done there. And then also, I'd just like to say thank you to those that are participating in our PEAK programs and our HOPE programs. I think it's very important that, not just for cost reasons, but community engagement, community partners is very critical, not only for, I was just speaking before the meeting about Orion and about some of the things that they're going to do there, visiting other organizations around town and in our area to try and get students to see, how they operate and maybe help them understand what maybe they want to do in the future. I think that's great. I think having programs, those people in here offer those abilities to our students and give them the opportunities. So very thankful for those that are involved in those programs, and also our ambassador program, those that are willing to learn about the district, take extra time to learn about how it operates, and then go out in the community and promote that. So that's all I have.
First of all, student board reps, you don't ever have to apologize for passing or apologize for the way that you speak. Everyone is accepted here. So I am going to come back to future agenda items, which I neglected to, I passed over that on accident. So after Superintendent Whitney's communications, we'll do future agenda items. And then I have spent the last 3 weeks spending time with my family before school starts again. At the date of our next board meeting, we will be on the eve of school starting again. And I have also been out in the community talking to to community members about schools, about the levy coming up, and it's just really, when I talk to people and they say, well, I don't know, I don't have anything to say about the school board because I don't have kids in school, I remind them that the board sets our tax rates for the bond and the levy, and that very much has to do with their everyday lives. And so it's just really refreshing to hear so many community members say, well, I will always support education. I think it's really important that we empower our youth so that, because they're our future. And it's just like hearing so many people be positive about education just really feeds my soul. And a reminder that we have our ribbon cutting for our 2 new high schools coming up before our next board meeting. So I don't have my phone in front of me. I'm not going to dig out of my purse for it. Thank you. I will let you.
No,
how about
go ahead. You got it, girl.
You prepared it and you have it all written down. So Superintendent Whitney will tell you during her communications when those exact dates and times. But it's such an honor to have been on the board since the bond passed and been at the groundbreaking of both of those schools to now be going to the ribbon cutting. And so I know my youngest is starting to ask me, when are we going to go back to school shopping? So happy back to school shopping for all of you, those that you have students and getting ready for the school year to start. And now we still have some principals in the room. I hope everything is going great with getting prepared to see students. I know teachers are getting ready and preparing all the materials and just thinking, and everyone that's working in schools is just gearing up for this next school year. And it's just always such a time full of hope and preparation and just really excitement about the year to come.
So I am going to talk about the ribbon cutting. So we're very excited to officially open our 2 brand new schools, Sageview and Orion. They will both be highlighted in community ribbon cutting ceremonies. These events, we all know that this didn't just happen. This was just the results of a culmination of years of planning, community engagement, and just tremendous teamwork. I'm really proud to say that the projects are on time and on budget, and just that in and of itself was a Herculean effort with just amazing attention to detail. I had the opportunity to walk through both schools today, and just the thoughtfulness in every decision that was made through the lens of how best to help students learn in those buildings is really incredible. So Sageview's ribbon cutting is Monday the 18th at 10 o'clock for the formal ribbon cutting. Orion's is Tuesday the 19th, also at 10 o'clock. Both events are open to the public and will include formal presentation and tours of the new facilities to follow. We've partnered with the Tri-City Chamber of Commerce and the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce to help host these celebrations and highlight the importance of those strong community relationships. So as we all know, the schools will help reduce overcrowding, expand educational opportunities, and really provide state-of-the-art spaces where students can thrive. The schools, Sageview will have a 9th through 11th grade as they open with a signature CTE program of ag, and then Orion will be open with 9th grade that will feature human and health services, engineering, and manufacturing. And I had the opportunity to go into one of their kind of science labs, and out on the tables are all these amazing kits of exploration for the health sciences. Like you can suture up a leg. It's like there was a leg and it had anyways, I was really excited about it. Anyways, so it was awesome. Our construction teams have just been incredible. The staff and planning teams have been amazing. It's just going to be a tremendous celebration. So I encourage you to mark your calendars and come celebrate with us. And Anna, thank you for providing me the details.
Future agenda items.
So pending any changes based on the evaluation conversation, this was our plan. It may change. The study session is focused on the long-term facilities management plan. There were reports scheduled to talk about potential federal funding impacts, and then Sarah may have a body of policies that will be relevant to the 25-26 school year. Annual district objectives were originally scheduled on the consent agenda, but that may all change. So the agenda for next meeting may be up in the air based on tonight's conversation.
Are there any suggestions for future agenda items from board members? Okay, we have no executive session this evening, and so our meeting